Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Order ahead, drive-thru, or get it delivered.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. The promo code is Norvell2020. I think it got a stay of execution, Corey. It's around till midnight on Monday, which I don't know if that means like 11:59 Sunday and then it strikes 12 Monday, or 11:59 p.m. on Monday. Just try the promo code Norvell2020, 25% off an annual membership, $25 e-card to Garnet & Gold, and 3 free months to Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. I look like I was doused in nuclear Zaxby's wing sauce and then tossed into a fryer, Corey. I was at the beach on Sunday. I am in pain. Just pain.
You didn't sunscreen up?
None. Never.
Oh, well, that's is that why you're in pain, or it was too hot?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, I never wear sunscreen, but I never stay at the beach for like 7 hours. And I was out there for 7 hours.
What were you doing? Playing a little sand volleyball? Building some sand castles?
Just trying to get a tan. But instead, gave myself I am scorched. I look like a lobster. I'm probably not going to even be on video during the press conference later this morning on Monday. And I can say that because the show was going to go to print very late because I got back late, had to do a video that Gene and Ira dropped, giving you a summary on the scrimmage. Ira also has got 10 things. 10. Diaz. Da. In Farsi. 10. That you need to know from the scrimmage. Corey, how many things you got to talk about from the scrimmage today?
Probably 7.
Okay.
Maybe 4. I definitely can't get to 10. And in fact, a little birdie told me that Ira couldn't get to 10 either and had to manufacture that last one.
What? No
had to just come up with something. But he got there. He's a pro. I told him, hey, man, if you only got 9, stick with 9. And that'll be a good game for all the listeners / subscribers to play. Is go read Ira's 10 things that he learned from the scrimmage and try and see if you can pick out the one that he just kind of threw on at the end.
Do you think you know which one it is?
No, I don't.
Okay.
They all kind of read like the last one. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Ira. No. But hey, that's a good little game to play. But he said, I told him, I'm like, dude, you could just do 9. There's no rule that it has to be some weird even number, but he's all about the even numbers for some reason.
Again, that promo code is Norvell2020. Thanks for joining us here. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Florida State did scrimmage on Saturday, an event in which nobody who is paid to analyze and view football for a living was allowed to view or analyze it, but I'm just joking around. Nobody's allowed to watch scrimmages these days. Shout out, really, truly, sincerely, FSU Sports Info and the staff and team has been pretty darn accessible here as we approach, what is week 2 of camp now we're on? I got friends in Austin that cover the Horns, and they literally get Tom Herman once every 2 weeks. I think Alabama's just starting now to maybe get some players. So if you're a Florida State fan, you've been showered with quite a good bit of access in this tumultuous time that we live in. We spoke to all the coordinators and the head football coach after the scrimmage. We won't go over the 10 things that Ira talked about. I think there's probably some overlap, but there's some stuff that stood out unique to him. What was your biggest takeaway from an event that you weren't able to watch, but you were able to pick the brain of 4 people who are heavily involved and are highly intelligent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the way they talked about Travis J was kind of eye-opening. Like, that was literally the first person that Norvell mentioned. And this is a guy that I kind of forget about. Again, I do that a lot, though. Here, I forget about half the team, apparently. But, when you talk about Nasruddin and Asante and Akeem Dent and Miko Dotson and those guys, Travis Jay isn't the guy that you really think about, like, being in the secondary. But the way they're talking about him, I don't know if he's going to start. But he's playing free safety number 1, which we got confirmation on that. He was at corner in the spring, and that's where they thought they were going to keep him. But, man, we said it back then, right? At least I did. Like, he kept having to match up with DJ Matthews. That's rough.
Yeah.
And he just has the range and the speed you would think to be a really dynamic free safety. So for now, that's where they're working him. And apparently he made a lot of flash plays, or at least a few flash plays in that scrimmage. And it didn't seem like it was a one night wonder. Like, Jay has been making strides throughout. And the people that don't know or don't remember, he had to sit out all of 2019 with an eligibility issue. He was probably the highest rated guy in that class? Him and Akeem Dent, I guess, were probably the 2 highest rated guys in the 19 class.
Definitely Akeem, at least in terms of rivals. Yeah.
Okay, so but Travis was one of the top 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I guess. So he was a big time get. He was a guy that a lot of teams wanted. So to get him out on the field, Woodson said on when was that, Friday?
Yeah.
Thursday, when he talked about Travis Jay, said he's probably the most athletically gifted player he's ever coached, and Woodson's been coaching for 16 years. So that says something. But that to me was, it's hard to. 2 things stood out. Okay, so the first thing was that Travis Jay was talked about, and then the QBs were not talked about at all. Like, everything was in the collective.
Yeah,
they got to get better at this. We got to get better at that. They're good at this. They're good at that. It was not like, well, and also Chuba had a really nice run, or Blackman had a great throw. They are doing their darndest not to tip their cap about anything when it comes to this QB battle, which makes sense at week into camp.
Or tip their hand or tip their cap? Tip
their hand. Tip their hat. They could tip their cap, too. Yeah. They could tip their cap when we ask a good question. Mm-hmm. That was noticeable. It's kind of a bummer, man. You mentioned it, but, like, Norvell would have – I'm almost positive he would have let us watch these scrimmages.
I don't know about it. He would have let us been watching practice.
What's the difference?
About scrimmage. Well, you're
like, we're charting everything. I'm charting everything in practice anyway. So if they're worried about us releasing stat, and if Chuba throws a pick, we're going to say, "Hey, Chuba threw a pick."
No, we're not. I'm not.
What do you mean?
Protect the franchise, man. Come on.
Of course you would. Sorry, my fault. If Rodemaker threw a pick, I should have said, or Jordan Travis. Yeah. So it really is a bummer that we can't do that, because just think about how awesome that would be for everyone listening to this show, and for the people on Warchant to be able to read about what happened in the scrimmage. But they told us a little bit. Corey Wren had a big catch. Didn't he say Toa Philly had a big run?
I think so.
Apparently, Amari Gaynor tweeted that he had 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack.
Josh Griffiths tweeted out a photo of him coming on a pass rush, beating a redshirt senior.
I believe
tackle.
Josh Griffiths had a forced fumble. He was mentioned too. That was the story I wrote Saturday night after the interviews, was just all the people that were mentioned in what context. Because there were a lot. They probably mentioned 20 guys of having played well or having played well so far in the camp. And, Travis Jay was just the first one and the most obvious one, I thought.
You did leave somebody off on that quite thorough, comprehensive story that you cranked out on Saturday night at like 10 p.m. Shout out to your boy, everybody. Yeah. Renardo Green, the way the audio is coming over from the Zoom call, which, again, if you're not quite familiar yet, Florida State is doing Zoom calls with a microphone that's an internal microphone in their laptop, so it's maybe not broadcast quality. A lot of you folks on YouTube are complaining about it. Nothing is going to change in that regard. So, use that information as you will. It cut off when he was talking about Renardo Green. He said another young man I think is having a really good camp. I think he's got a big-time future ahead of him. Check out Corey's story for the full rundown of all the players. But for me, I think it was quarterbacks. I actually was able to watch the footage, the limited footage, a little bit over 2 minutes that they provided us. And the comment was that, I think Kenny Dillingham said something about, we don't need a quarterback that's going to make ESPN top 10. Just don't make the bad play, really,
The not top 10.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I'm like, man, it's my guy James kind of reverting to form or regressing. And the footage that they provided, he's got 3 really nice throws in there. And he's the only, I think, Rodemaker might have a throw in there, and Chubba's got the run. There's a still image of him giving a stiff arm to a redshirt sophomore defensive back en route to crossing the plane and scoring a touchdown. And there's actual video of that play as well, so you can check it out. It's up on our YouTube page.
By the way, again, don't you think the fact that they're willing to give us that video, wouldn't that lend itself to them letting us watch a scrimmage too?
Well, this is what I would say to that, Corey, is if there's anything that we could watch safely, why would it not have been a scrimmage inside of Doak?
Yeah, and I'm not, and this isn't that we're not going to do that on this show. I would, maybe if we could reach out to Norvell, maybe I'll text them and be like, hey, it would be good practice for us too on your next scrimmage if you want us at the games to actually be there in the scrimmage and be able to watch from the 50-yard line, the 45-yard line, the 40-yard line, all sprinkled throughout the stadium. We can socially distance where we'll be 100 yards from your players. There's no way we can get them. We can infect them.
Or put us in the press box. Put us in the press box.
Yeah. Or on top of the roof.
Yeah, I'll do from
literally.
The roof.
I like being on the roof.
So
that would be cool. Maybe that can happen. But I get it, man. It is what it is. It's a crazy time for everyone. But I do think that the fact that they're not. Look, man. Last year, the year before, and then the decade before that. If a kid made a good play in a scrimmage or a game, if the video would only have the kid scoring the touchdown, not the kid trailing them that got beat. In this one, hey man, their feelings, they don't seem to care all that much about their feelings, which is awesome because ESPN doesn't care about their feelings when they're showing highlights on Saturday of you getting beat for a touchdown. So I like that they show Chubba. Who was it? Carlos Becker.
I mean, I'm not going to mention people's names.
Well, hey, man, we're all big. We're all grown-ups. Carlos Becker might have had some nice plays, but Chubba's basically pushing Carlos Becker away as he scores a touchdown. I think there's another play where Corbin has a nice run where he stiff arms Jaden Large Woodby. And that good, man. That's football. There's competition. You're going to win some. You're going to lose some. It's okay to show that. It doesn't mean that Carlos Becker's having a terrible camp. It's just Chubba scored a touchdown and you were on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, that's true. To the quarterbacks, what I was trying to say, though, with James, I think that concern of mine was unfounded because in the clips that he showed, he had a real nice touch pass on a screen throw to Jayshon Corbin. That was a big-time gain. Probably about 40 yards or so. The blitz came to him, just lobbed it right over the pass rushers, right to Corbin, and he was down the sideline. He had a nice out route throw to, I think, Ja'Kai Douglas, put it out there to where only he could get it. And same thing with the throw to Cam McDonald in really tight coverage, really, really tight coverage. I don't know who was in coverage there, but they were all over Cam McDonald. And he put it out there to where only Cam could sort of get it. So those were, I thought, again, it's a limited amount of, who knows? They probably ran 80 plays, and we see 2 minutes of it. But when I first heard that, I'm like, uh-oh, are they paving the way for Chubba? Because it felt like, if any player was going to maybe get that kind of reaction of we don't want the ESPN top 10 play necessarily, but just don't give us the not top 10. We haven't seen a lot from Jordan Travis. We obviously haven't seen anything from Tate Rodemaker or Chubba. So one would assume that maybe James had, made some throws that made you groan. But at least what they showed out there, which you would hope would be somewhat representative. I'd hope they wouldn't mislead and, if James had a real bad scrimmage, just showed the only 3 throws he made. But yeah, the quarterbacks we don't know a whole bunch right now, and I don't know. I guess there might be a rhyme to the reason. Other than that, I thought the offensive line sort of answer from Kenny Dillingham when asked about, just in terms of where is this offensive line? In terms of knowing what they have to do and maybe being able to actually perform what they're being asked. What do you say? Tremendous growth.
Right.
Unbelievable. He used a pretty strong superlative in front of the word growth.
Could have been phenomenal because those coaches say the word as somebody that types out, tries to transcribe as much as I can from the interviews.
Yeah.
The word phenomenal is really, really hard to type fast. I always misspell it. And those guys, that's their
They're
superlative
big time.
of choice. They love the word phenomenal.
That
So I
Willie's was
assume he
big
said
time.
it was, what was it, big time?
Big. Yeah, I was like, he's big. That was big time. He'd be a big time play. He's being big time
Yeah.
for us. Big time. Big time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, big time. Big time's a lot easier, even with the hyphen in the middle, than phenomenal. That's a tough one.
I mean, if this offensive line can figure things out, that sort of gives you.
Yep,
But we'll reserve judgment. We'll reserve judgment until
let's slow down on
until
that.
Georgia Tech rolls.
But
into town.
Ira, I thought it was really funny when Ira asked him, like, "Hey, were y'all able to like run plays?" Because sometimes this offensive line, if they're facing a good defensive line, they can't do anything. Like they can't even run plays. And Norvell kind of laughed and was like, "Well, yeah, no, we did run some plays. Now they did, some good, some bad, but we were able to actually have a practice and call offensive plays and run them. So that was positive."
Well, also, I mean, the way Kenny Dillingham spoke about Alex Atkins, I thought that was pretty
Phenomenal.
cool.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
He's doing a phenomenal job. And that we'll see, man. I think every time they talk about the offensive line, it's with the understanding of they're not talking about the Patriots or Alabama or anybody like that. They're doing okay they're doing well for maybe Florida State's recent expectations. But we all understand. I don't want people to come on here on September 13th or September 15th, whatever we do Renegade Express, like, what happened to all that preseason talk about the improved offensive line? Look, man, it's baby steps. Like, at this point, newborn baby steps. I'm not talking about a 13-month-old that can get a little momentum going and go across the hallway and cross the living room. I'm talking about newborn baby steps where it's like, well, I guess they can't even walk, can they? That analogy lost its momentum because newborns can't walk. But seriously, I understand. We're just, if you're a Florida State fan or a Florida State beat writer wanting to see good football this year, you're just looking for average. Just get up to average. Maybe by the end of the year you can be a little tiny bit better than average. I was going to say good, but that doesn't seem like it could happen in a year. But if you can just beat average, all right. And like they said multiple times, they're looking for 8 guys. They would theoretically like to have 8 guys for 5 spots.
Easy there. A little ambitious. Just find 5,
how about 3? Find 3 or 4 that can play, and then we'll figure out what we can do with the rest. But yeah, I mean, hey, have high expectations. If they could find 8, that would be incredible.
Phenomenal.
Find 8 that they feel good in. It would be phenomenal. But yeah, the way they talked was like, okay, they weren't. They didn't get blown off they didn't get blown away. Apparently, they weren't like, man, we've got a long way to go. This is not good. I thought Dillingham and Norvell seemed pretty upbeat. Again, when you're having to read between the lines when you're talking to people, the way Fuller talked, I thought another thing that was interesting, and this shouldn't be a surprise, but when I asked Fuller about like if any offensive players stood out or who you'd have to like, who just gives them issues. Number one, he didn't answer that, which was fine. But he said, look, it's just the offense itself. They're so multiple. They do so many things. He goes, you got Kenny and Mike who are the best in the business.
Yeah.
And they make it really hard for you to do things. And he did not like the word when Ira, I guess, I didn't remember it, but I guess Norvell said the defense looked dominant at times.
Okay.
And when Ira brought that word up to Fuller, he's like, "Well, that's an interesting word choice." So I don't know that he was completely fired up with the way the defense played, which tells you that I think the offense moved the ball. But even more importantly, Florida State, when they're healthy and locked in, with Kaindoh now apparently has having a nice camp. We know what J-Rob, Marvin, Cooper, and Durden can do. That's as good a defensive line as you're going to play probably. Yeah. And they still are. You're watching it. They're still moving the ball. Fuller's still talking about how hard they are to figure out. Well, that's good, man, because they know right now they don't have a great offensive line, and they're not gonna get one in the next month. But if they can game plan and scheme around it, which apparently they did a little bit on Saturday, that's a really positive sign moving forward because they're not going to play any defensive lines better than Florida State's. So that's promising at least.
I shouldn't admit this. I don't think I can even name a defensive lineman that plays for Clemson, but I still would probably say, well.
Yeah, see, you can't even say it. They have the kid that was like the 5-star super duper. Is it like Xavier Thomas? Is that a name?
I thought
he was like their third. I remember him. He was on the field.
I'm thinking of Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah,
Xavier and
gone.
Isaiah always get confused for some reason with no good explanation. But
Can
yeah,
you
that
look
sounds
up?
right.
Can you look? You could look up their roster. I think he'd be a junior this year. I just remember because I was on the field when it was 59-3 2 years ago.
What are you talking
And
about?
obviously
Fake
they
news.
had
That never happened.
they had their third stringers in, and then that dude was their third string D end. And I'm like, who is that guy? And I looked him up in the game. Like in the game, he like came off the edge and made a crazy athletic play. And I'm like, that's their third stringer? Who was that? And I looked him up, and he was like ranked the number 2 defensive end in the country the year before in high school.
Third team All ACC selection, Xavier Thomas enters
go.
2020 credited with 74 career tackles, 18.5 for loss, 5.5 sacks. Second team preseason All-American by Phil Steele and Athlon. That was
Look at me. Look at your boy. I got my finger on the pulse, man. I can name a preseason All-American from one of Florida State's biggest rivals.
Look at you.
Yep,
Proud of
that's
you,
how
man.
I roll.
I couldn't. I could not.
No, you couldn't even name anyone.
What am I going to do without? I wonder if Phil. Is Phil still going to still drop like a 700
I think he
page
did, yeah.
season preview?
I think it's already been mailed out. What I saw on Twitter, it's like a 352-page book, magazine that, of course, half of it's irrelevant now, but still.
It's crazy. I can't get through them, and it's my job to do this now. Like when I was 19.
I ate it all up. I would read about
My
Wyoming.
goodness. Yeah.
Literally, I would read about Wyoming. Yeah, I'd read up on Wyoming. I'd be like, man, I wonder if like Fresno State's going to have a big year. How many starters they got returning? What's UTEP doing?
Right.
How they going to be? How they rolling in El Paso this year? And I wasn't getting paid for that. I just read it.
Yeah.
And then now, like I barely know that Clemson has a preseason All-American at defensive end who will probably be a first-round pick.
Oh no, you knew it inside and out. Thanks for making me feel a little bit better.
I feel like I know Florida State. I don't even know. I was going to say I feel like I know Florida State now better than I did then, but there's no chance.
I mean, you knew that stuff. It was ridiculous.
Back then, that was all I did. I would read the media guides before I went to bed. My dad each year somehow would. I guess they sold them. Maybe they. Well, they don't now because I don't. But yeah, but they. I guess they used to sell the media guides, and my dad would always buy one in like July or August and get it to me like 2 weeks before the season started, and I would just eat it up. But those days are gone.
And I should remember Tyler Davis. He was at the Saturday Night Live back in the day, and yeah.
Did he end up going to Florida State or Clemson? Which did Clemson end up winning that one?
Yeah, they did.
Well.
That dude. I haven't been to a lot of combines. I think I've only been to the Rivals 5-Star Challenge in 19. The one in which like Dante Lucas like got into a brawl with the guy. 'Cause some guy like he just stonewalled some guy. And the kid ended up like punching Lucas, and then Dante just stomped him out.
Right.
That and then that the first SNL they did was pretty cool. Well, not temperature-wise, it was a sweltering jungle in there, but it was pretty cool. They had it set up nicely, and that Tyler Davis kid did not look very imposing. Like on the sheet was like really like a 6'1" defensive tackle, and dude, he was just abusing every offensive lineman. I'm like, dang, he's good. And Langston was like, oh yeah, he loves Odell. He's a big Florida State guy. But I'm like, okay, and yeah, thanks, Brett Venables. Loser.
It's going to be a decision he regrets for the rest of his life.
It will be. It will be. So yeah, this defensive line is going to be quite good. I think Kaindoh.
Yeah, man, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It is. I almost wanted to ask them, and I don't know how specific it is. I remember Ira's. This is something Ira's kind of been pointing out a few times, but when he spoke to Adam Fuller, the whole Travis J thing was about like they really wanted to give him a shot at cornerback. Because, I mean, I don't know if it's just defenses overall, no matter what scheme you're running or what they're trying to accomplish, but if you can be like a 9 out of 10 cornerback versus being like a 10 out of 10 safety, it feels like Adam Fuller would rather you be a 9 out of 10 cornerback. Like, if you can be a really solid, like, being a cornerback is more important, I guess, than the safety for what they want to run. But maybe that's just defenses overall these days. They just want somebody to kind of shut down one side of the field. But I do wonder if, for them, if there's anything more important, because with Marvin and Durden and Big Coop and Fabian Lovett and Quayshawn Fuller, who actually recovered that fumble that Josh Griffiths forced. And if they can get an outside pass rusher, and I know they're going to try to maybe scheme some things with Amari Gaynor, and that sounds enticing, but like if Joshua Kaindoh can live up to the vast potential that he had coming to Florida State a few years ago and show Delaware State Hornets how he gets down. I mean, if that could be like the most transformative player on this team, maybe second to a quarterback, if not maybe even ahead of that, what he could do for that entire side of the ball if he could just wreak havoc. Give us a DeMarcus Walker-esque season.
Well, that's might be asking a little too much, but yeah, man, he's like the one guy on the defensive line where we haven't seen anything close to like what his ceiling is. Like Marvin, we've seen the ceiling. He's unblockable. Durden has had really good moments. J-Rob, I think, kind of is what he is, which is a solid player. He's the guy that Dabo singled out when he was going through the litany of great Florida State players on the 2019 defense. He started with J-Rob, who missed the first half because he had been kicked out for targeting. But Kaindoh, we've seen, like a game and a half glimpse, really? Like, I thought he was playing well in the Virginia game until he went down. And then, it's been a whole lot of not remembering anything. I think that potential is what's so intriguing because we don't know what that looks like. We don't know what his ceiling is at all. But if he's as good, if he's playing as well as they say he is, then that's a really good sign. To have a dynamic rush end to go along with what they have in the middle, man, that's a really, really big bearer for an offense to have to deal with. But going back to Travis J real quick, I did want to point out, and I should have pointed out when I was talking about
we're talking about Travis J like he's
no. But the reason that I wanted to bring it up, one of the reasons that it might have made sense to move him to safety, is because when he was playing corner, Miko Dotson and Jarian Jones weren't on the team,
right? Yeah.
So you get those two guys rolling into the roster, and you're like, okay, we've got this really good athlete who can play at corner and maybe be a second-string corner. I mean, they're loaded at corner, or third-string for that matter. They've got 4 really good corners, I think, in Asante, the 2 guys I just talked about, and Akeem Dent. So, or you can move him to safety, and maybe he has the potential there to play a lot more at safety. And also another person that hasn't been mentioned at all in the first 8 days that we've been doing this that I can remember is Hamsa. And if you remind me later today, I do want to ask Norvell about Hamsa and what he looks like. Is he playing a lot? Because obviously he was coming back from a major injury, and because you would think he's going to be a big part of the defense if he's healthy. But I want to know how he's moving around, if he's moving around.
We'll throw into the mix there if we're going to continue to talk about the defensive backfield. I mean, a guy that I don't think he wasn't on my top 40. I don't think he made. He wasn't an honorable mention, but the staff was just raving about him after the scrimmage was Jarvis Brownlee, and he's a guy I think that pretty much is a cornerback. Renardo Green, a guy that I mentioned that Norvell had pointed out. So, I mean, they've got all sorts of pieces at cornerback. So, yeah, it might just be one of those things kind of out of necessity and what you're mentioning and just like a good problem that you have to put Travis J at safety.
Yeah, but it might be a perfect fit for him. I said, big and rangy, can run, physical.
I like him there.
I do
too. I haven't seen it, but it just sounds like from what we know from this kid, what we saw in high school, just the way he's built, what you already have at cornerback, the guys that you mentioned, the amount of talent there. Yeah, man, put him at safety, and you got a guy like Hamsa back there as well. If he gets healed up, and if not, man, I think they got all these guys that we just mentioned, they can roll 5 defensive backs out there and have all sorts of treasure on the sideline that top 25 programs would probably like to have on their roster. So this defense, again, man, it's a sneaky thing. We're gonna go ahead.
Do you just because you talked about top 25, the way we're talking, I think people are getting riled up. They're getting fired up. They're like, yeah, absolutely, this team's loaded. If they do they come out with preseason rankings? And if they do, is Florida State now a top 25 team?
Somebody did. I don't think the AP did, because Ralph Russo, who I think runs the AP voting, said that yes, they will, and outlined why they're going to do it. I don't know when the start date was. I can try to find that, but I think maybe the coaches did, because or I don't know, actually I shouldn't say that. I know that somebody on Warchant posted a thread.
Like a media entity did.
Yeah. And they're
Was
like,
Florida
why
State
are all
in
these
it?
they weren't top 25 because the whole thing was like, why are all these teams ranked ahead of us? Which I think means like they were ranked and Florida State was not ranked.
Oh, okay. All right. But hey, their chances of being in the top 25 are a lot greater now.
Yeah, there's like 70 something.
70 teams, yeah.
Although who knows if the saliva thing testing goes through, then who knows? Maybe everybody will come back to the dance and want to play ball. So,
man, I hope that's something. It just seems like every couple weeks or a month you see something where people are like, this is huge news. This could potentially be big time news, whether it's for a vaccine or a test or something. And then it's like, okay, that was 7 weeks ago. Why haven't we heard anything else about it? So I hope the saliva test thing is the real deal, man, because it just the cost effectiveness of it, like a $10 test that you can get with the hour. Number one, you don't have to touch your brain anymore, and I think the results can come back quicker, and it's $10, and you can take two just to be sure for $20. That would be potentially a game changer.
God, this guy tweets way more than I thought he was, so it's not. Here we go. Preseason poll drops August 24th. Preseason top 25 for the AP.
Okay, so a week from today.
Yeah, so we all have something like that.
That's awesome. That's funny. They're still going to rank them.
Well, I mean, just it's. I don't know. We've seen the way this team has played the last 2 years, but for some reason, we all want to forget it, but it's been kind of easy, I guess, to purge out the bad thoughts and look at the upside of all these guys and to think, maybe foolishly to a certain degree, that all of these guys are going to play to their potential finally in the same season. But it feels like there's too much talent, at least on the defense, and not a lot of question marks. I mean, maybe linebacker they seem a little bit hesitant to gush praise on. Like the defensive line almost feels like they're underselling them. Like they never talk about it. We need to ask about Durden. Somebody posted a thread on Warchant like what's going on with him. I haven't heard his name, and that's I'll try to see if I can finagle a question in on that. But I mean, the secondary we've just talked about for the last 5 minutes. Obviously, we know what they have on the defensive line. I mean, linebacker seems like it's like but I mean, I don't know if you have good guys covering and you have people harassing the quarterback. I mean, linebackers can be you can do a couple creative things to kind of hide the blemishes there. But they talked about Josh Griffiths being a good option for them. Steven Dix Jr., another guy that has sort of flashed for them, and Amari, and then Emmett Rice. I mean, they talk about the fact that there's older guys at that position, so they're maybe not as quick to heap praise on the younger guys. But I guess maybe we do forget the fact that hey, Emmett could finally hit his potential. Maybe Leonard Warren III can finally be dialed in because it sounds like Kaindoh's dialed in. Like, why couldn't Leonard Warren III finally be dialed in now?
Hey, maybe I think part of that too is that when it comes to the preseason, the guys that have been here a long time, you don't feel the need to ask the coaches as much as you do the guys that are either on the campus for the first time or coming back from an injury or haven't really done anything in college. Like you feel like, okay, you know what Emmett Rice is, you know what Leonard Warren III is. Hey, how's Jaleel McRae or Steven Dix doing? I think I think that's how it works. So like that's why you don't think about even asking about Corey Durden because you're like, yeah, he's really good. Like we haven't asked, hey, how's Marvin doing?
Yeah
Marvin still a good football player. Hey, another thing that I thought was interesting enough, and maybe this can dovetail into another topic, is that Tamarian was out there at least a little bit.
Yeah, which was a bit surprising, I thought.
I was surprised when I heard that. In fact, I texted you guys because I was putting it in the recap, and I didn't want to put that in there if it wasn't true, if I misheard him. But yeah, he said Terry was out there. He said his reps were limited. Obviously, well, he didn't say obviously, but his reps were limited, but he was out there. And then I know one of the pictures they released from the scrimmage, he was in the background, I think making a block, or I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but he was
Terry? Terry's making catches. He's number 5. He had like 2 catches on the video they showed.
Oh, no, I was talking about the pictures. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't talking about the video. Yeah. So that's good, man. Now, Warren Thompson, didn't see him out there. DJ obviously won't be out there for a while, you would think. And then you probably should mention, or you might not even know, you've been at St. George all day, that Warren Thompson had another press release.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Okay, go ahead.
But you did mention, you just mentioned Warren, so I was like, actually, I should mention that. By the way, I did go to St. George Island first time, bit of a beach snob, thoroughly, pleasantly surprised. Although it kind of reminds me of back home, Honeymoon Island, really nice, very quaint, but none of these places have showers or to where you can rinse off, so you're not all sandy in your car. Like Clearwater Beach has got millions of these things. No matter where you are.
Hey, well then why don't you go back there, Aslan, if you love it so much?
I do love it. But
don't rip on St. George's lack of showers.
I can't do my job down there. That reminds me. For some reason, I was thinking about all the people that dislike me for their Florida State fans. And one guy early on was like, "Why don't you go back to Mississippi? We don't like you." I'm like, I'm from Florida, jerk. All right, so Warren Thompson posted this on Sunday evening at 8:25 p.m. on Twitter on I don't say official, but on Florida State letterhead.
I don't know how he gets that, but it's well done for usually they put it a player when they're doing something like that will just put it in their notes on their phone or something. Yeah. My man's got he's had so many press releases now that he's got his own press release letterhead for these things.
Hey, Warren, man, job security is an important thing for me. If you need a PR guy, crisis control, I'm here for you, man. Let me know how I can help out. He says, "Dear Seminole family, playing football at Florida State University and my coaching staff and teammates is exactly what I want to do. With all the fear in the world, the confusion and concerns regarding this matter may cloud judgment on this arising problem in this country. My apologies on comments earlier this week that did not accurately depict my feelings towards this program and its leadership. Today, I am grateful for the diligent efforts from myself," that's kind of funny, "and Coach Norvell to move forward. I am hopeful that this will be a great season of Seminole football. I am also confident in Coach Norvell and the future ahead of us. Warren J." I guess that's his middle initial. He's going by Warren J now.
Okay.
And fun fact, we recorded a whole sort of back and forth of what we thought about that apology, and then after we got done with the show, apparently Warren has subsequently deleted the apology, but his entire social media account, or at least his entire Twitter account, has now been either deactivated or completely deleted. We don't know what that means for his status with the team. It's possible that maybe it backfired on him, or perhaps that was kind of a final sign-off, and then he's going to focus on playing football and getting back into the good graces of his teammates. I did see Amari Gaynor had replied to the tweet before it was taken down. Let's get to work. So we'll see. It's a developing story.
What are we at now? What's the countdown at? 25 days?
Don't make me do math, Corey. Don't, unless it's in front of my face and it's already spelled out.
It's August 17th. We got September 12th, so I think that's 25 days. I can't remember if there's 30 days in August.
31. There's 31. Back-to-back July and August.
Is there really?
Yeah.
So we got 26 days. I don't like adding days.
Sorry.
I don't like adding days to this thing.
I'm sorry.
Especially when you're looking at you saw what the Alabama mayor or the Tuscaloosa mayor tweeted out.
I did not. No.
Well, I think it was the Alabama AD took a picture of some corner on campus in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, we're trying to have a football season, and it was just jam packed with kids and everybody else, and there were like 7 masks. And some of the Alabama football players retweeted it too. It's like, I thought y'all said y'all wanted to have a college football season. Why aren't y'all wearing masks? And that's going to happen all over the country.
What did the Tuscaloosa mayor say in response?
Oh, so he said he's going to ask the University of Alabama for help patrolling these places during the day because they're stretched so thin. The Tuscaloosa Police Department.
Oh yeah.
So they're going to ask for the University Police Department to help. That might be, there were apparently a bunch of clusters that broke out in Chapel Hill.
Oklahoma.
So,
they were allowed to go home because they started practice.
Well, that was a football cluster, right? That was 9 football players. Yeah. I'm talking about like just pockets of students. The campus, and that's what's the letters that the Big Ten parents keep writing, and apparently every day the parents take a turn what school you're at. Okay. It was Iowa, then it was like Michigan, I think was Sunday. Ohio State had one. Justin Fields started a petition to let them play. The point they keep bringing up, which is the best point, it's the only point, is how in the world can you say football is unsafe but campus life isn't? It literally boggles the mind. It makes no sense.
How can a university tell you what? Like, they can't do anything with Yannis. Again, man, in a classroom, they can be like, you're not coming to class. Everything's online. If you're coming to a classroom, we're going 6 feet with masks. They can control that on the campus. They can control what the football team's doing to prepare. But, yeah, man, they can't tell people what to do at Madison Social.
No, but again, the difference is that the football players are getting tested 3 times a week. They'd be tested in the Big Ten. Those students who go out to Yannis aren't getting tested before they walk into chemistry class.
But how many of them are walking to chemistry class? I don't think
I
there's
don't
a lot
know,
of that
12
going
of them,
on.
16 of them. The point is there's going to be clusters and outbreaks at all these college campuses. The safest people on the campus. I truly believe this. And I promise you folks, if you're listening to me and rolling your eyes, I'm not one of these hoaxers. I know this is real. I've been following it for 6 months. It still scares the bejesus out of me. But it's crazy to think that, okay, we're going to leave campus open. We got 50,000 kids coming to Columbus, Ohio. Good luck, everyone. Hope you stay safe. But we got to shut down football for the safety of those student athletes and for the safety of our community.
I don't feel like arguing for 5 more minutes. It's already late because it's a show out here. This I'll leave you with this. There's some nuggets that Gene has posted after the scrimmage and some additional notes. I won't spill it all because you should be a subscriber for this sort of content.
There you go.
Does mention that Florida State does want to play out an 11-game schedule, which is what they have. But last time we talked, that wasn't the case. But since we have talked last, everybody, Samford, SoCon Conference went ahead and said they're not going to play any non-conference fall sports.
Well, which made sense,
football.
right?
Yeah.
They were going to cancel the season, but they could still play their non-conference game.
Yeah,
All right, kids, do y'all want to practice for 2 months to go get the tar beat out of you by Florida State so we can get $450,000? How's that sound?
I don't know. Maybe give yourself 2 months to prepare for one game. Might not get the tar kicked out.
You could pull the upset.
Yeah. But it sounds like they do want to get an 11th game done. And listen, if I was Willie Taggart, wasn't his whole thing ring?
Come on, man.
Wasn't I mean, isn't Norvell's, Norvell's got Osceola and Renegade and planting the spear whenever there's a commitment. Willie's thing was like ring. I would literally just retweet Samford University's tweet about they're not playing a non-conference game. I would retweet it with like a @Seminoles, and I would put ring if I was Willie Taggart. That's what I would do.
Well, I think you and him have different personalities, though, right? And it wouldn't matter. There is I can't.
It's not going to happen.
Fathom.
I get it. I get it. I'm not. Yeah. Right, I think it should, but I understand why it's not going to. I mean, you can't.
Again, if he wants to forfeit half of his what's coming to him, or even a quarter of it, only $4 million. If he just wants to say, "Hey, the 4 of the 16 that you owe me, we're throwing that at the curb. Keep it. Keep women's tennis going."
It's easy for me to say because it's not my money, but and I'm not in this situation. But for him to beat Florida State, would it be worth $2 million? You know,
man. No, I got you. I mean, that's $2 million is a lot of money.
It is. People forget it. But I don't know. Would people forget about it? I mean, no one. Does anybody talk about Jim Levitt coming inside of Doak and beating Bobby Bowden? I feel like no one's. People stop talking about that. You know,
that was different. People still remember Ron Zook winning the debut of Bobby Bowden Field.
Only the people that wear Crocs and jean shorts, and they don't.
But people would definitely remember the guy that just got fired after 21 games, coming back to his old school and beating them. With lesser talent
for 5 months, and then how long are people talking about it? Like, it's not going to shock the world.
But imagine Norvell would never sign off on that.
Why not? You got better horses than he does. You're a smarter guy. You got better horses.
I mean, in the press conference, he'd be like, "Look."
It'd be like you challenging Shanna's new husband on a game of Jeopardy. Like, come on. I mean, what do I have to fear? Bring it. Let me reinforce what you walked away from. Think about it.
Okay, that analogy is probably a little bit better than my newborn running.
Okay,
that's a better one. Not perfect, not a perfect analogy, but certainly better than my newborn baby steps.
Okay, I like it. All right, Corey, we're done. Let's talk to the coaches, and then let's talk about them talking to the people that listen to us talk.
Well said. Well said.